Srimad Bhagavatam, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Narayanam Namaskritya. Naram Chaiva Narottama. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Tato Jayamudiraye. Nashtaprayesha Bhadreshu. Nityam Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttama Shloke. Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. From Srimad Bhagavatam, Chapter 3. Chapter 4, Chapter 6, Creation of the Universal Form, text number 8. Esah, hi, asesa-sattvanam, esah-sattvanam, esah-sattvanam, atmamsah, paramatmanah, atmamsah, paramatmanah, atmamsah, paramatmanah, adyo, avataro, yatrasau, adyo, vataro, yatrasau. Combine adyo and avataro as adyo vataro. Adyo vataro yatrasau. Bhuta-gramo vibhavyate. Bhuta-gramo vibhavyate. Bhuta-gramo vibhavyate. Esah-sattvanam. Atmamsah paramatmanah. Adyo vataro yatrasau. esah-sattvanam atmamsah paramatmanah adyo vataro yatrasau bhuta-gramo vibhavyate
esah-sattvanam
esah-sattvanam
atmamsah paramatmanah
atmamsah paramatmanah
adyo vataro yatrasau
adyo vataro yatrasau
bhuta-gramo vibhavyate
bhuta-gramo vibhavyate
esah-sattvanam
esah-sattvanam
atmamsah paramatmanah
atmamsah paramatmanah
adyo vataro yatrasau
adyo vataro yatrasau
bhuta-gramo vibhavyate
bhuta-gramo vibhavyate
esah-sattvanam
esah-sattvanam
atmamsah paramatmanah
atmamsah paramatmanah
adyo vataro yatrasau
adyo vataro yatrasau
bhuta-gramo vibhavyate
bhuta-gramo vibhavyate esah this he certainly asesa unlimited sattvanam living entities atma self amsah part parama-atmanah of the Supersoul adyah the first avatarah incarnation yatra whereupon asau all those bhuta-gramah aggregate creations vibhavyate flourish. Translation and purport by the Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Purport. Translation. The gigantic universal form of the Supreme Lord is the first incarnation and plenary portion of the Supersoul. He is the self of an unlimited number of living entities, and in him rests the aggregate creation which thus flourishes. Please repeat the translation. The gigantic universal form of the Supreme Lord is the first incarnation and plenary portion of the Supersoul. He is the self of an unlimited number of living entities, and in him rests the aggregate creation which thus flourishes. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Lord expands himself in two ways: by personal plenary expansions and separated minute expansions. The personal plenary expansions are visnu-tattvas and the separated expansions are living entities. Since the living entities are very small, they are sometimes described as the marginal energy of the Lord. But mystic yogis consider the living entities and the Supersoul paramatmanah to be one and the same. It is, however, a minor point of controversy. After all, everything created rests on the gigantic virat or universal form of the Lord. Nama Om Vishnu-padaya Krishna-preshthaya Bhutaya Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Imani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pratari Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasaratari Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaurabhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The description of the creation of universal form is continued. Who is describing this? Brahma, Vishnu. Who is describing this? Maitreya describing to whom? Vidura. Vidura is asking about the creation. So Maitreya is describing. Now, what is this universal form? It's actually a big mystery to understand the universal form. The difficulty arises in understanding that universal form is the form of the Supreme Lord. But the Supreme Lord does not have a material form. Is it correct to say Supreme Lord does not have a material form? But what is the universal form? It is the form of the whole universe. Is the universe made of matter? Yes? No? Not sure. Short Mangala. Universe is made of matter or made of spirit? Matter, not spirit. Coming from spirit, but it is matter, made of matter. Universal form consists of the living entities and the material bodies, material objects. So, universal form consists of spirit and matter. Both. Universal form consists of both. Now, the Lord's form is completely spiritual. So, how can there be matter in the universal form? The Supreme Lord's form is completely spiritual. It is not a material form. And yet, the universal form is one of the forms of the Supreme Lord. It is made of spirit and matter. So, to understand what is this universal form, so much explanation. Detailed explanation of it. In this verse, universal form is described as the first incarnation of the Supersoul. See, there are incarnations of the Supreme Lord in his various forms. Incarnation of Krishna. Who is incarnation of Krishna? Vishnu. Who expands first from Krishna? Balaram. So we say incarnation of Krishna. Balaram. Specifically, we are talking about specific forms, not general. In general, all visnu-tattvas is incarnation of Krishna. But specifically, if you want to go into the specific details, incarnation of Krishna is Balaram. Now when Krishna comes to this world as Krishna, isn't that an incarnation of Krishna? That is also incarnation. Avatarah means the Lord comes down. Avatarah, the word comes from avatarah, means to come down. He is in his personal abode, whereupon eva nivasati. He resides in Goloka, in the spiritual world. But he comes down. He comes down, he incarnates. So, Krishna who comes down is incarnation of Krishna. Balaram is incarnation of Krishna. But Balaram further expands. Balaram expands into what forms? Vasudeva Sankarshana Pradyumna Aniruddha. The first quadruple expansion. Chaturvyuha. Sanskrit is Chaturvyuha. Prabhupada translates as quadruple expansion. 4 simultaneously, 4 forms. Expand over Balaram. Vasudeva Sankarshana Pradyumna Aniruddha. The Sankarshana among these 4 further expands into Narayana, who is the predominating deity of every Vaikuntha planet. Narayana. That Narayana further expands into the second quadruple expansion, second category. Again, the second set of Vasudeva Sankarshana Pradyumna Aniruddha. That second Sankarshana expands into Mahavishnu. Mahavishnu expands into Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. That Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is also manifested as what? Universal form. Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. He enters into the universe. He lies down on the Garbha ocean, which is his own perspiration, or drop of perspiration. And he manifests the universal form. So it is Garbhodakshaya Vishnu's form only, expansion only. But here it is described, he is the first incarnation of the Supersoul. Supersoul means paramatmanah. Paramatmanah means one who enters into, first of all, he enters into the material energy. Material energy as Mahavishnu. So that Mahavishnu enters into the material energy. He is present also as the Supersoul who enters into every living entity. So that Supersoul, first incarnation of the Supersoul who enters into every living entity, is this universal form. Universal. So universal form means his form is the whole universe. How is his form the whole universe? Because he is entered into the universe. Just like this body cannot develop unless the spirit soul enters into the body. Similarly, the whole universe does not develop till Garbhodakshaya Vishnu enters into the universe. The universe will not develop. So because he enters into the universe, and then the universe develops, therefore the universal form is one of the forms of the spirit. But actually, he enters, does not enter. That is described, we discussed this in the previous class. What does that? Najavatstani bhutani pashyane yogamashvara. All living entities are in me, but I am not in them. The next verse it says, even though all living entities are in me, actually they are not in me. Najavatstani. He contradicts the 9th chapter. To remember the discussion. Masthani sarva bhutani najaham teshu avastitah. And again, the next verse Krishna says, Najavatstani bhutani mastani sarva bhutani. Then next verse, Najavatstani bhutani, directly contradicting. First saying, I am, everything is in me, then everything is is not in me. So that is to help us understand that the Supreme Lord, unless He enters, the universe cannot develop. So that is entering. It's not like our entering this body. What's the difference? When He enters the universe, He does not become conditioned by the universe. He is not limited by the universe. He does not identify this universal form as my body. Now does he think, I am this body, I am this universe? No. He retains his identity as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He has no confusion. He has no doubt. He has no misidentification. He is not limited by the universe. So in that way, he does not enter. In that sense, he does not enter. In the sense, he is not conditioned. He is not identifying with the body. He is not limited by the body. He is not thinking, this is my body. Whereas we living entity, what happens to us? When I enter this body, I think I am this body. Or I think, sometimes when I want to exploit this body, what will I think? This body is mine. Or I think I am limited by this body. I think I am limited by this body. So, in several ways we are conditioned by the body which we enter. Vishnu, Garbhodak child Vishnu is never conditioned by the universe he enters. Therefore he says, I enter and I do not enter. Do not enter means he is unconditioned, he is unaffected, he is not limited, he is not covered. As if he is not covered. Even though he has entered, he is free. There is no covering for him. He is not covered by the universe. So, because he has entered the universe, he is the Supersoul within the universe. Within the universe, there are so many living entities. All the living entities are spirit souls. But there is also one Supersoul, the whole universe. Who is that? Paramatmanah. Who is that Paramatmanah? The first incarnation of Paramatmanah? Garbhodak child. This Vishnu that we are talking about, who has the universal form, the universal is form. That Paramatmanah, that Vishnu, is the first incarnation of the Supersoul. And he is also described as plenary portion of the Supersoul. What is plenary portion? Having the full power. Plenary means having the full power. He has the full power of the Supersoul. Again, the same point, he is not limited by the universe. He is not covered by the universe. He does not identify with the universe. He is not materially conditioned. He remains the master of matter. He remains the master of the material energy. He controls the material energy. He directs the material energy. He is beyond the gunas. He is beyond the illusion, beyond matter. Okay. So, that is the description here. The gigantic universal form of the Supreme Lord is the first incarnation and plenary portion of the Supersoul. He is the self of an unlimited number of living entities. He is self. If you read the book, the capital S is used. Capital S means, like, I am spirit soul, I am within this body. So, the self of this body is I, the individual tiny spirit soul. But there is one more self of this body. Who's that self? Supersoul, paramatmanah. Atma is the self within this body. There is one paramatmanah who is also the self within the body. In the Bhagavad Gita, how is it described? Kshetrajnam cha api ma buddhi sarva kshetreshu. Same thing here. The self of an unlimited number of living entities. Krishna says in chapter that Arjuna asks, what is Kshetra, what is Kshetra? So what is Krishna's answer for what is Kshetra? Idam shariram kaunteya kshetram iti abhidhiyate. This body is called Kshetra. And what is the next line? Idam shariram kaunteya kshetram iti abhidhiyate. Kshetramiti etadyo veti tam prabhu kshetrajnam vitadya. One who knows the body, knower of the body is called the kshetrajna. One who knows the body, one who is aware of the body, conscious of the body. So I am conscious of my body, therefore I am kshetrajna. You are conscious of your body, therefore you are the kshetrajna inside that body. I am not the kshetrajna in your body. You are not the kshetrajna in his body. You are only the kshetrajna in your body. But there is one more kshetrajna. Kshetrajnam cha api mam vidhi. Krishna also kshetrajna. What kind of kshetrajna? Sarva kshetreshu bharata. He is the kshetrajna of all the bodies. All the. So that is being described here as the first incarnation, the Supersoul, who enters into the universe, whose form is the entire universe. He is the self of an unlimited number of living entities. We cannot count how many living entities are there in the universe. In him rests the aggregate creation. Aggregate creation means to take the whole universe as one huge mass of creation. That rests in whom? In that Supersoul, Paramatmanah, the whole change. It rests in him, which thus flourishes. It is completely maintained by him. It is maintained by him. It rests in him. It is maintained by him. He is the Supersoul of the universe. Because he is entering, the whole thing is developing. Otherwise, the universe is simply one lump of matter. It's not. It has no ability or capacity to develop by itself. Look at this body. This body will not develop by itself until the soul enters. So the universe will not develop until Paramatmanah enters the universe. So, the first incarnation and plenary portion of the Supersoul is the universal form. He is the self of an unlimited number of living entities. He is the Supersoul. Specifically, he is not just Atma, he is Parama. He is Parama. We are the individual, tiny, living entity, Jiva soul. Jiva Atma Parama. Jiva Atma Parama. Brahman Parabrahman. Ishvara Parameshvara. So this distinction always has to be made. The mystic yogis consider the living entities and the Supersoul to be one and the same. It is not correct. It's not one and the same. there is a distinction in identity. There is a distinct difference in the position, in the awareness, in the consciousness, in the potential. Everything there is difference. There are similar qualities, that's all. Both are spiritual, both are conscious, both are eternal, both are aware. But how much am I aware? Limited to my body. How much is Paramatma aware? Aware of everything. Creation. Everything is aware. So, his awareness is unlimited, my awareness is limited. His body is a gigantic universe, my body is this tiny body. So, the difference exists even though there are similarities. That difference is particularly important to understand if we want to know the reality of what is the soul, what is atma. Atma vidya. We go to the details of atma vidya, then it is important to know the similarities as well as the difference. The Mayavadis, in trying to get atma vidya, they only talk about the similarity. They don't consider the difference. They don't. When it is said here, he is the self of an unlimited number of living entities, there are two selves within every body. Two atmas. The Upanishads clearly declare there are two birds sitting within one tree of the body. Why two birds? Because there are two souls. Who are the two souls? Atma and Parama. Two souls. That's why Madhvacharya's picture, you see? You see Madhvacharya's picture? Always like this. Two souls. Shankaracharya taught Advaita Vedanta. Advaita Vedanta means no difference between Supersoul and soul. Atma, paramatmanah, no difference. No difference between you and God. You are not God, God is you. Everything is one. Advaita Vedanta. But what did Madhvacharya teach? Dvaita. Two. Atma and Paramatma. You and God. Soul and Supersoul. And there are a lot of evidence in the Upanishads, Vedas, the Puranas, the Itihasas, Vedantas, Bhagavatam, Bhagavatam, everywhere there are enough evidence. So what does Shankaracharya do when such evidences are presented? He cleverly twists the meaning. Cleverly twists the meaning by using expert word dictionary. Very expert. Big scholars, they use word dictionary for twisting the meaning. Clearly Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Kshetranyam cha api mam viddhi sarvam kshetreshu. Describe one Kshetranya as a living being, another Kshetranya as he himself. So, very clearly, if we study properly, if we understand the explanation of the Vaishnava chapters very clearly, to Atma, not one. But Shankaracharya's explanation and the Mayavadi philosophy. So, the mystic yogis consider the living entities and the Supersoul Paramatmanah to be one and the same. But actually it is not. Yes. But two does not mean this individual soul is independent, is separate entirely. No. It is individual soul is dependent, is part existence, does not have an entirely separate identity. Identity of the soul is part of this amsah. Naivansho jivaloke jiva-bhuta-sanatana. Eternally part, inseparable part, cannot be separated. Cannot be separated. And because it cannot be separated, in some parts of the scripture, it is described the soul and supersoul are one. There are distinctions. In some parts. What is that? Some places in the scripture. What is that? Soul and supersoul is one. One in what sense? This tiny spirit soul, even though has individuality, is part of the supersoul, cannot be separated, is connected eternally as a tiny part, as a servant, as a devotee, as an amsah, as a part. So Prabhupada explains here, the Supreme Lord expands himself in two ways. By personal plenary expansion. Personal means his own personality. Plenary expansion means with full power he expands as Balaram, Sankarshana, Narayana, second Sankarshana, Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, Paramatmanah. All expansions are called plenary expansions, personal plenary expansions. Then there is a second category of expansion, separated minute expansion. Separated means individuality. Separated means not disconnected, not independent, but connected, yet having individuality. Individual thinking, feeling, willing. Individual sense of identity. Individual sense of existence. Individuality. That is the living. Separated minute expansions. Very, very tiny. Jiva soul is very tiny. Separated in what sense? Not separated that there is no connection. No, there is connection. But separated in the sense that there is individuality. Not identical with the Supreme Lord in all respects. Not that Krishna is expanded, therefore the living entities are also Krishna. No, living entities are not Krishna. Living entities are living entities. But they are always connected. Always connected. Related. Connect better than word connected is related. Related as what? As servant. As servitor. As devotee. Always related. So that oneness and difference is what Chaitanya explains as achintya, bheda, abheda, tattva. Inconceivable oneness and difference between the living entity and God. Any questions? So this is a description of the universal form of the Supreme Lord. He is the first incarnation, then we go to the Supersoul, himself of unlimited number of living entities. In him rests the entire creation. Yeah.
This Supersoul is the Jiva body developed because of the presence of Jiva or because of Supersoul? Body developed.
What did I say? The Supersoul is present in the body, not like the Jiva soul is present. What did I say? Supersoul is present and not present. He is not conditioned by the body. He doesn't identify with the body. I, the Jiva soul, I identify with my body. Supersoul does not identify.
Our body develops because of the process of the supersoul or
Individual universal.
but maintainer is supersoul.
Yes. They are the maintenance. They are the maintenance. That's why sometimes the body becomes sick, no? If you want to maintain why you should become sick. Even if the body becomes sick, you can do something. But you are not the maintainer of the body. It is the supersoul.
The body is completely under the control of
Supersoul.
Like how he said, conclude that jiva is responsible for development of the body.
Not responsible. Because the jiva has entered the body, therefore the body develops. Not jiva is responsible, no. Jiva is not responsible.
Yeah, but when you see from Brahma-samhita, it is said that he enters every atom and he...
Paramatmanah.
Yeah, paramatmanah.
Yeah.
Every atom, every cell.
Every
of the
cell,
body.
yes,
So
yes.
he is the one who obviously has to be responsible for the body and
Yes. He is responsible. But the development of the body is due to the jiva entering. It is for the sake of the jiva. There is no need for this body to develop or body to be created or body to be maintained for the paramatmanah. Paramatmanah has nothing to do with it. He doesn't require it. Who needs the body? The jiva requires. For what? For enjoyment. Illusory enjoyment. For illusory feeling of I am the body. I am the possessor of this body. For that feeling only, for an illusory feeling. That's why the body is created. Clear? Clear. Vishwa? Vishvesha, the Lord of the universe. He is the Lord of the universe. Acha, Vishnu that is referred to, Vishvesha. What was it? Vishnu-atman is also referred to. He enters into the Vishnu. Vishwamurti, the form of the universe, that's also referred to. But again, all are not different from Krishna. Why? Plenary, personal plenary expansion. Therefore, Krishna says, Krishna has why? Personal plenary expansion. That's it. But his opulence is totally aloof from the creation. As Krishna is enjoying Chama Sundara. What is he doing? He is enjoying the Bhuta-gramah. Goloka Goloka. Goloka Evam Vasati. Goloka Nam Vedhamdi. First of all, he is enjoying. And he is explaining as if they are separate persons. As if they are separate persons. That is his opulence. He can do that. His energies are working, arranging for all the spiritual and material affairs, making all arrangements, yoga maya and amsah, making all arrangements, serving him according to his will, according to his direction, according to his requirement and necessity. That is his opulence. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.